Why does time speed up as we age? Have you ever stopped to wonder why the summers of your childhood felt endless, yet the years of adulthood seem to vanish in the blink of an eye? Why does time, once a vast ocean of possibilities, shrink into a relentless stream that carries us forward, faster and faster, with every passing year? What changes? Not in the clocks that measure time, but in our perception of it. This question has haunted philosophers and scientists alike for centuries. Time is more than just a ticking clock or a number on a calendar. It is the very fabric of our existence, the invisible force that structures our lives. We chase it, fight against it, and often feel trapped by it. But do we truly understand it? Some thinkers have approached time as a physical reality. Plato associated it with celestial movements, Aristotle tied it to the soul, and Einstein redefined it as a flexible dimension of space. But when it comes to the subjective experience of time, the way we feel it rushing past us, one philosopher stands out: Henri Bergson. Bergson's ideas on time were so profound that they led to a historic intellectual showdown with Albert Einstein himself. It was a debate between two titans of thought, one a physicist, measuring time in equations and relativity, the other a philosopher, exploring the way we experience its passage. But before we delve into their clash, we must first understand Bergson's revolutionary insights on time, the elastic nature of time. Bergson argued that time, as we experience it, is fundamentally different from the time that physics measures. He called this distinction la durée, or duration, the fluid, qualitative sense of time that shapes our emotions, memories, and consciousness. To grasp this, think about the difference between watching a clock count down a minute versus spending that same minute lost in a deep conversation with a friend. Objectively, 60 seconds have passed in both cases, but subjectively, the experience is entirely different. One drags on endlessly, the other disappears in an instant. Bergson believed that this subjective perception of time is more real than the rigid numerical time measured by clocks. But why does this matter? Because it explains why time feels different at different points in our lives. Why childhood feels endless. Do you remember what it was like to be a child? Every day was an adventure, every experience fresh and new. A single summer could hold what felt like a lifetime of discovery. The reason for this, Bergson would argue, lies in the nature of memory and novelty. When we are young, almost everything is a first. Our first day at school, our first best friend, our first heartbreak. Our brains are constantly absorbing and processing new experiences, stretching time out in our perception. Each day is packed with unique memories, making time feel longer. This also aligns with the way our brains store experiences. Psychologists have noted that we tend to compress repetitive or familiar events in our memory. When we look back at our childhood, it feels rich and expansive because it was filled with novel experiences that left deep impressions in our minds. But as we grow older, something changes. The acceleration of adulthood. Compare your childhood summers to the past few years of your life. How many days truly stand out? How many moments felt new? As adults, our lives become routine. We wake up, go to work, follow schedules, and repeat. The more familiar our days become, the less our brains register them as significant. In a way, we stop fully experiencing time, and instead, we move through it on autopilot. Bergson's duration explains this phenomenon perfectly. The more novelty we experience, the slower time feels. The more routine and predictable our lives become, the more time blurs into a rapid, indistinct flow. This is why, for many people, years seem to vanish after their 20s. The milestones of youth, graduations, first jobs, new relationships, give way to the repetitive rhythms of adulthood. And before we know it, a decade has disappeared. The Bergson versus Einstein debate. These ideas on time were so radical that they led to one of the most famous intellectual clashes in history. Henri Bergson versus Albert Einstein, as we know, revolutionized our understanding of time through his theory of relativity. According to physics, time is not a fixed constant. It bends, stretches, and contracts, depending on gravity and motion. Einstein's time was a physical dimension, measurable and objective. Bergson, on the other hand, insisted that this was not the whole story. He acknowledged Einstein's discoveries, but argued that they ignored the human experience of time. What good was a theory of time that could explain the motion of planets, but not the feeling of a fleeting moment? Their debate reached its peak in 1922, during a public discussion in Paris. Einstein, ever the scientist, dismissed Bergson's view as irrelevant to physics. But Bergson countered that time was not just out there in the universe, it was within us, shaping our very consciousness. What this means for us. So, where does that leave us? Is time an external force, measured by clocks and equations? Or is it a deeply personal experience, molded by our memories and emotions? The truth is, it's both. We live in two realities of time, the one physics describes and the one we feel. Understanding this can change the way we live our lives. If time speeds up with routine and slows down with novelty, then the key to making life feel longer is simple. Seek out new experiences, break the routine, pay attention to the present. Instead of letting the years blur together, we can actively shape our perception of time. We can introduce more novelty, more adventure, more presence into our days. Because in the end, time is not just something that happens to us, it's something we create. What if everything we know about time is an illusion? What if the clocks we live by, the schedules we follow, and the deadlines that dictate our lives are nothing more than artificial constructs, a poor substitute for something far deeper? For most of human history, time has been understood as a straight line, a sequence of moments neatly divided into past, present, and future. The ticking clock, the turning of the calendar, the steady march of days and years, all of it reinforcing a comforting illusion. He revealed that time is not independent, but intertwined with space, bending and stretching under the influence of gravity. To physicists, time became the fourth dimension, a component of the universe as objective as length or width. But Henri Bergson saw things differently. To him, this neat and tidy definition of time was not only incomplete, it was a dangerous simplification, one that stripped time of its true essence. The time Einstein measured was not the time we experience, and that distinction, Bergson believed, was everything. Time as a prison, the tyranny of the clock. Bergson argued that the way we typically think about time, what he called spatialized time, is not real time at all. It is an abstract construction, an invention designed to bring order to our chaotic lives. While useful for organizing society, it does something insidious. It distances us from real, lived time. Think about how modern life is structured. Every action is measured in minutes and hours, tracked by schedules and deadlines. We live by alarms, appointments, and notifications. We wake up, go to work, check the time, and repeat the same cycle day after day. In this world, time is no longer an experience, it is a taskmaster. This obsession with measured time, Bergson believed, was one of the reasons modern life feels so rushed, so anxious. We are not experiencing time, we are racing against it. We have become slaves to the ticking hands of the clock, forever trying to keep up, as something to be felt. Duration, the true experience of time. Bergson's most radical idea was the concept of duration, la durée. Unlike measured time, which is divided into discrete moments, duration is fluid, continuous, and deeply personal. It is the time we actually experience, shaped by our emotions, attention, and state of mind. Consider how time feels when you're waiting for something. A few minutes can stretch into what feels like an eternity. Now think about how time feels when you're deeply engaged, absorbed in a book, a conversation, or a moment of pure joy. Hours can pass in what feels like minutes. The clock may say the same amount of time has passed, but your experience tells a different story. For Bergson, this was proof that real time is not something that can be measured. It is something we live. Every moment is unique, shaped by our perceptions and memories. To reduce it to numbers on a clock is to strip it of its meaning. Bergson versus Einstein, a clash of titans. These ideas were so groundbreaking that they led to a legendary intellectual showdown. In April 1922, Bergson attended a lecture in Paris where Albert Einstein was discussing his theory of relativity. Bergson, then one of the most famous philosophers in the world, sat quietly in the audience until the discussion turned to time. Einstein, ever the scientist, argued that time had no philosophical meaning. Time, he insisted, was objective. It was a dimension, a part of the physical structure of reality. To suggest otherwise was to ignore the discoveries of modern physics. Bergson disagreed. He acknowledged Einstein's achievements, but argued that they ignored something essential: the human experience of time. Science could measure time down to the tiniest fraction of a second. It was not the time that makes a moment feel fleeting or eternal. The debate grew heated. Einstein, caught off guard, struggled to respond. He eventually dismissed Bergson's ideas outright, saying there is only a psychological time and a time of physics. The remark sent shockwaves through the intellectual world. The media seized on the moment, painting it as a battle between science and philosophy, reason and experience, numbers, and in many ways, it was. What this means for us. A century later, Einstein's theories have been proven time and time again. But does that mean Bergson was wrong? Not at all. If anything, Bergson's ideas are more relevant today than ever. We live in a world where time is constantly measured, optimized, and monetized. We are surrounded by digital clocks, countdowns, and algorithms designed to maximize efficiency. But in this rush to control time, we have lost something essential: the ability to truly experience it. Bergson's challenge to Einstein was not about disproving physics. It was about reminding us that time is more than just an equation. It is the rhythm of our lives, the texture of our experiences, the very essence of what it means to be human. Reclaiming time. How do we break free from the relentless march of measured time and reconnect with duration, the true experience of time? The answer is surprisingly simple. Pay attention, slow down, savor moments. Step away from schedules and allow yourself to lose track of time. Engage in activities that make hours feel like minutes. Reading, creating, connecting with others. Most importantly, recognize that time is not something outside of you. It is something you shape. Final thought. Do you feel like time is moving too fast? What would happen if you started experiencing it instead of measuring it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video made you think, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of existence. Thanks for watching. Until next time, make time yours. Though the debate between Bergson and Einstein ended without a definitive winner, many in the scientific community sided with Einstein. Some, including notable Nobel laureates, argued that Bergson had failed to grasp the essence of relativity. But was that really the case? Bergson was not a philosopher lost in abstract ideas, disconnected from the scientific progress of his time. He was a highly respected intellectual, deeply familiar with mathematics and physics. His disagreement with Einstein was not rooted in ignorance, but in a fundamental difference in perspective. Science, Bergson argued, had developed incredible tools for measuring and analyzing time, but these tools were ultimately the wrong ones when it came to understanding time as we actually experience it. He compared scientists to surgeons trying to perform delicate operations with the wrong instruments, attempting to wield a knife where a scalpel was needed. The result? Flawed conclusions about the nature of time itself. Science treats time as something that can be mapped, divided and measured, a spatialized dimension much like length or width. Einstein's theory of relativity expanded upon this, showing that time bends and shifts depending on gravity and motion. To physicists, time was just another coordinate in the vast structure of space-time. But Bergson rejected this notion. He argued that while measured time was useful for science, it was not real time, at least not in the way humans actually experience it. He saw time as something fundamentally different from space, something that could not be chopped into discrete units without losing its essence. For Bergson, time was succession without distinction and mutual penetration, an interconnected flow where each moment contains traces of the past and unfolds into the future. Time was not a series of frozen snapshots, but a living, continuous stream. This was more than just an academic idea for Bergson. It was a call to action. If we failed to recognize real time, if we allowed ourselves to become lost in the artificial structure of measured time, we risked losing our connection to ourselves. This, he believed, was one of the greatest dangers of modern life, a world so focused on tracking, counting, and optimizing time that we had forgotten how to actually experience it. Consider how time feels in childhood. Days seem endless, summers stretch on forever, and every experience is rich and vivid. This is because, as children, we are constantly encountering the world with fresh eyes. Everything is new, and because of that, every moment leaves a deep imprint on our memory. But as we grow older, something changes. Life becomes more routine, more predictable. Days blend into each other. Weeks pass in a blur. The reason? We stop truly experiencing time. Instead of absorbing moments as they come, we rush through them, always looking ahead to the next task, the next deadline, the next obligation. We start to live by the clock, measuring time rather than feeling it. Bergson believed this was a tragedy. He urged people to step back from the relentless march of measured time and reconnect with real duration, the kind of time that expands when we are fully engaged in life, that stretches when we immerse ourselves in the present. He encouraged people to seek experiences that bring back the richness and intensity of childhood perception. This idea is more relevant today than ever before. In a world dominated by schedules, notifications, and countdowns, We have become more obsessed with controlling time than actually living it. We measure productivity in hours worked, success in milestones achieved, and yet we often find ourselves feeling as though time is slipping away faster than ever. What if the problem is how we think about time? Bergson's philosophy offers an antidote, treating it as something to be experienced. Instead of living by the clock, live by your sense of presence. Instead of constantly looking ahead or dwelling on the past, immerse yourself fully in the now. Instead of structuring every moment around efficiency, allow yourself to be absorbed by the richness of life. Imagine what life would feel like if we truly embraced Bergson's view of time. Imagine if we measured our days not by hours passed, but by moments truly lived. The debate between Bergson and Einstein may never have had a clear winner, but in the end, perhaps that was never the point. Perhaps the real lesson is not about which theory of time is more correct, but about how we choose to experience time in our own lives. So the question remains, how will you choose to experience time? Often, life becomes more routine with fewer novel stimuli to engage us or form distinct memories. This creates a sense of time contraction, where long stretches pass by almost unnoticed. Henri Bergson believed that this was not just an illusion, but an inherent part of how we experience time. Bergson also emphasized that our perception of time is proportional to our lived experience. For a child, a single year represents a substantial fraction of their life, making it feel much longer. But for an adult, that same year is a much smaller proportion, giving the impression that it flies by. Unlike mechanical time, linear and artificially constructed, Bergson's concept of duration reflects a network of endlessly complex, interwoven moments, deeply tied to our consciousness. Time is not something external ticking away on a clock, but something we carry within us. The connection between time and consciousness. How does this connection between time and consciousness work? According to Bergson, time is a qualitative continuation of our experiences, where everything we have lived is stored within the present. In his view, the past is not truly lost or separated from us. It exists within us in the form of memories, emotions, and experiences, continually shaping how we perceive the present. These memories are not static or distant. They are alive, influencing our understanding of reality. Similarly, the future is not something external waiting to unfold. It exists as a potential within our consciousness, shaping our thoughts and actions as we move forward. For Bergson, the now is never isolated. It is the convergence of past and future, interconnected and fluid. This ongoing flow of experiences is what Bergson referred to as duration, emphasizing the complexity and richness of time as it exists within us. Bergson's influence on culture and art. Bergson's ideas didn't just redefine philosophy, they influenced broader cultural and intellectual movements. His exploration of subjective time resonated with existentialists and phenomenologists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Maurice Merleau-Ponty, who also emphasized the importance of lived experience. Early psychologists valued Bergson's insights into memory as a dynamic and active force, rather than just a passive recording of past events. His ideas extended into art as well. Bergson believed that artists had a unique ability to express the essence of time in ways that science and philosophy could not. Writers like Marcel Proust and James Joyce, inspired by Bergson, created works that blurred the boundaries between past, present, and future. In search of lost time, memories resurface unbidden, blending with the present, reflecting Bergson's concept of duration. Similarly, Joyce's Ulysses condenses a single day into a rich tapestry of inner experiences where time becomes fluid and deeply personal. For Bergson, art was a vital counterbalance to the dominance of mechanical time. It reminded people of the depth and texture of their inner lives, something that clocks and formulas could never capture. While he did not argue for a complete rejection of measured time, after all, it is necessary for organizing society, he urged us to reconnect with the modern relevance of Bergson's ideas. In today's world, where life is dictated by schedules, deadlines, and notifications, Bergson's philosophy feels more relevant than ever. We live in a time where speed is glorified. Faster results, instant communication, quick success. But at what cost? Bergson warned that when we become too fixated on measuring time, we lose our ability to experience it fully. The constant pressure to keep up leads to anxiety and burnout, making it harder to find moments of stillness and true engagement with life. What if we stopped treating time as something to be conquered and instead saw it as something to be lived? A world where we valued depth over speed, quality over quantity. Perhaps in doing so, we could resist the alienation of modern life and rediscover the richness of human experience. Final thoughts. Bergson's ideas challenge us to rethink our relationship with time. Instead of allowing mechanical time to dictate our lives, he urges us to embrace the fluid, personal experience of duration. So, the question remains, are you truly experiencing time, or are you just counting it? If you found this exploration of Bergson's philosophy thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Leave a comment below. How do you experience time? We'd love to hear your thoughts.